Life can be a lot like driving on an interstate highway. It's important to stay in your lane, only glance backwards if you're planning to make a change, and always watch out for David Beckham because he might swerve in that corner, whoa. And with an introductory statement like that, I probably shouldn't wait long to help you decode it, right? So when it was officially announced in September 2021 that Prenetics, a diagnostic and genetic testing company based in Hong Kong, was going public through a SPAC merger, I fully admit not even spending one iota of energy on the financial news headline. Moreover, I might have only heard about Prenetics if it started to meaningfully achieve those lofty ambitions stated within its SPAC presentation document, as the company sought to decentralize healthcare by making prevention, diagnostics, and personalized care comprehensive and accessible to anyone at any time and anywhere. And that's mainly because their previous mission statement sounded very similar to a powerful decade-long consumer behavior shift I've mentioned within countless pieces of content, that more individuals have begun viewing themselves as consumers in the healthcare market compared to solely being patients, and the various contagion effects stemming from that consumer evolution, which removes barriers and provides access to better health in a manner that's approachable, personalized, and convenient, has created immense marketplace opportunities, many of which are either within or adjacent to my deep domain expertise. But as you might have assumed, either from the video thumbnail, title, or already possessing knowledge of the pivots within the Prenetics journey, this is not how I learned about the company. And before I say that company awareness story, it would be pragmatic of me to provide a brief overview of those Prenetics strategic pivots. Prior to 2020, the core business of Prenetics was genomic profiling tests that focused on disease prevention rather than genealogy. And that business strategy adopted by Prenetics allowed them to raise tens of millions of dollars from big name strategic investors like the Chinese internet company Alibaba. But as you know what took shape in late 2019 and early 2020, Prenetics made a strategic decision to pivot, becoming one of only 3 companies selected to provide coronavirus testing support to the Hong Kong government. And those more than 28 million tests processed in total helped Prenetics grow revenue significantly, which peaked at around $276 million in both 2021 and 2022 calendar years. Moreover, as I mentioned earlier, Prenetics began trading officially on the NASDAQ in May 2022, and in the process became Hong Kong's first billion-dollar unicorn startup. But with the great shutdown behind society, Prenetics focused again on its foundational genomics business, with its acquisition of ACT Genomics, enabling it to offer an FDA-cleared cancer genomics profiling test. Furthermore, the joint venture creation of Insighta in mid-2023 signaled to the market that Prenetics had an unwavering support on developing multi-cancer early detection technologies. But that decision to exit virus testing, regardless of demand falling to almost zero anyways, and its pivot back to genomic testing, meant that Prenetics' year-over-year revenue fell by over 90% in full year 2023. And maybe that drastic revenue drop, subsequently driving the stock market price down an equally gigantic level, caused some pressure to consider another strategic pivot, this time focusing more on consumer health. But this brings us to around the time where I initially crossed paths with Prenetics. In March of last year, the company reached out to me, I believe initially through LinkedIn, to speak about this upcoming strategic realignment that would focus on the US consumer healthcare market. And it took us about 45 days to officially connect, partly because my son was born at the end of February, which obviously caused a constrained schedule that would be forced to stretch because of time zone differences. But to be completely honest, it also was partly because I just wasn't sure it was a legit fit between us, which that hesitation eventually got cleared up after a trusted industry colleague mentioned that Prenetics had reached out to her as well, and she provided me with the level of detail needed to assess the project opportunity. And while I didn't sign an NDA, I'll keep the detailed contents of that what I wrongfully assumed would be a brief, friendly, surface level introduction conversation confidential. Though 2 major focuses of that strategic commentary did turn into public knowledge. David Beckham becoming a strategic investor of Prenetics and co-founding a supplement brand called IM8 Health, and the acquisition of Europa Sports Partners. But before I talk in depth about that deal activity, I wanted to quickly mention another transaction that further signaled a deepened focus by Prenetics surrounding its US consumer healthcare business. In October 2024, Prenetics and the global technology holding company Tencent struck a deal to acquire 15% of Insighta for $30 million. So with more cash on the balance sheet and leadership recently confirming that going forward, Prenetics would concentrate fully on the consumer health businesses it wholly owns and are scaling aggressively, I'm going to equally focus this final portion of the content on the Europa Sports Partners and IM8 Health deal activity. And I'll begin with Europa Sports Partners mainly because I've mentioned the full service sports nutrition distribution company in previous content pieces. In fact, there's a detailed piece of content that's worth checking out from May 2021, outlining the rise and fall of Europa Sports products before a private equity firm revived them under the slightly changed name of Europa Sports Partners. So because of that, I won't repeat all those details again, but I did mention this likely what's next option that's worth highlighting again. To me, the most likely is that a mid-market private equity firm comes in, buys out the company. They adjust the name to refresh it, kind of reintroduce it into the market. They also extend out their product categories that they distribute into more of the dimensions of what wellness is considered today. They bring in a top-level turnaround executive. They change over the management team and inject the company with a ton of technology improvements on the operational side to increase the value of the asset so they can flip it off their books for a large multiple in about 5 years. And some of my thought exercise happened, some of it was attempted, and some of it was overlooked. But regardless, I'm fairly sure that the private equity firm AFI Partners did not get that valuable exit, as it's always telling when you don't at least see quotes within deal news from the sell-side managing partner. So then, why did Prenetics acquire what we can assume was a struggling Europa Sports Partners in August of 2024? The surface stuff would be that it solidified its business commitment to the US market, established a US headquarters, and provided Prenetics with more than 200,000 square feet of warehousing space in 3 attractive locations across the southern part of the US. A layer deeper would be that Europa Sports Partners gave Prenetics access to a strong multi-decade network of brand, suppliers, and retailer relationships that could have synergistic value to IM8 Health or XYZ brand development project in the near-term future. But more than anything, I believe Prenetics saw an opportunity that AFI Partners largely overlooked, which involved transforming the legacy business model of predominantly brick and mortar independent specialty channel distribution. And while I think achieving any semblance of transformation will also require driving efficiency into every aspect of that Europa Sports Partners core distribution strategy, Prenetics typically acting as a business creator or innovator and not a renovator like most private equity firms is what makes them inherently more accustomed to managing the level of risk needed to push Europa Sports Partners aggressively past its recent and current marketplace challenges. So if I was Prenetics and trying to fix Europa Sports Partners, my strategic game plan would initially start by acknowledging both the internal weaknesses and external threats that created this current need for transformation. Off the top of my head, internal stuff like human capital and culture, and external threats that resulted from low barriers to entry and overall mainstreaming of the supplement industry. Then I'd know my core strengths of technology and digital transformation at Prenetics and start filling the gaps to create opportunities. As an example, with Partners in its company name, there needs to be a substantial cultural shift away from a transactional order-taking mindset to one focused on creating value beyond supplements, serving as thought leaders, and helping partners make data-driven decisions. Similarly, the influence to purchase cycle has shifted towards creators and quickened because of digital platforms. So in the TikTok shop era, Europa Sports products must creatively leverage Hub Matrix, its 3PL direct-to-consumer fulfillment subsidiary, in a manner that positions it closer to where the market has shifted more recently and helps democratize selling supplements to non-internet famous fitness practitioners. But in stating these different strategic ideas, I also fully acknowledge that it does move risk towards other business functions like marketing that hasn't been traditionally a strength of Europa Sports Partners. And while that's a great transition into talking about IM8 Health, I do want to close this loop by giving a few financial details on Europa Sports Partners. Since there wasn't a note in the M&A deal news from August 19th, I'm going to guess that was the approximate closing date. So let's assume Europa Sports Partners officially was a part of Prenetics for 28% of 2024, which means the distributor had maybe $19 or $20 million in annual revenue. And according to 2025 projections, Prenetics believes Europa Sports Partners will grow more than 60% year over year to around $30 to $35 million in revenue. Is that absurd? No. Is that unlikely? Yes. But if the SPAC presentation from 2021 was any indication of how optimistic Prenetics leadership is generally, when giving forward-looking revenue expectations, I'd probably be more comfortable with stating Europa Sports Partners will reach $23 to $25 million in 2025 revenue. But shifting now to IM8 Health, Prenetics officially launched the premium supplement brand in mid-November 2024. As stated earlier, the involvement by David Beckham means IM8 Health would fall into the relatively new phenomenon dubbed celebrity packaged goods. While endorsement deals were a major historical part of celebrity compensation and wealth creation, digital platforms disrupted everything. Now, attention currency of views, likes, comments, and shares can have exchange rates that supersede endorsement compensation of decades past. And if talent knows how to properly articulate and aestheticize its defining personality traits into physical product form, celebrities can potentially build extremely valuable brands. But there's also way more to the equation than just having a celebrity co-founder pull forward brand awareness. Just think back to all the CPG news headlines you've read over the last few weeks or months. Didn't it seem like almost every one of them had some type of talent attached to them? So if everyone is doing it, wouldn't the law of diminishing marginal returns eventually start to kick in? And that's because the number of consumers interested in buying a product for no other reason than it's launched by a celebrity shrinks each time a new one enters the market. Celebrity packaged goods brands must still be great at all the tactical and strategic blocking and tackling X's and O's CPG operator stuff. And that's why strategic partnerships with strong CPG operators or companies are so important to enhance the probability of long-term success. So you might be wondering, is Prenetics the credible team behind David Beckham that can push IM8 Health to $100 million or more in annual revenue? I honestly don't know enough to make that assessment yet. But with stating that, you should understand that a 9-figure revenue projection is definitely lofty ambitions, even within dietary supplements, and rarely achieved within any ingestible CPG category. Right now, it's hard to imagine unlocking that level of commercial results, especially after the first about 45 days in market generated about $400,000 in 2024 revenue. But since the year-end 2024 earnings statements were released in the first week of March, we should assume that the first quarter 2025 revenue projection of around $4 million is reported with a significant level of confidence. Yet, the full year 2025 projection of $30 to $35 million in IM8 Health revenue would likely give me the same overly optimistic vibes as previously stated regarding Europa Sports Partners' financial numbers. But I just wanted to end with some quick final thoughts. Prenetics is said to be conducting a strategic review of its ACT Genomics clinical health business that could very likely create another cash injection very soon. Moreover, Prenetics already possesses about $85 million in cash and cash equivalents, which makes it well positioned to do something more significant to unlock growth opportunities. Finally, some of my comments, especially pertaining to revenue projections, might have left you thinking I'm rooting against the Prenetics team. But that's hardly the truth. In fact, I'd love nothing more than to see a buddy of mine, David Vanderveen, lead the successful transformation of a historical cornerstone piece of the sports nutrition industry. But I hope you enjoyed the first principles thinking that went into my latest YouTube video. If you did, can you do me a favor by hitting that like button? That quick and free action helps YouTube know my content is worth spreading to more people. Also, we're getting really close to reaching my next subscriber goal, and it would be great if you join me on this journey. But to do that, we need to fix the fact that slightly more than 3/4 of you that are watching this video right now are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, and that hurts my feelings. Regardless, I want to thank you for giving me some of your attention and time, and I'll see you on the next one.